I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I want to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate or despise one another. In this world, there is room for everyone. And the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children. Victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed. The bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. That was Charlie Chaplin's final speech in The Great Dictator. He eloquently expresses what is wrong with our world. Against the backdrop of his brilliant speech and a multitude of complex challenges facing us today, I want to ask you, do you think our world in its present form has any future? Some 10,000 years ago, almost the entire humanity lived as hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers lived in perfect harmony with nature. With the advent of agriculture, people started settling down. It permanently changed our relationship with nature. Today, we stand at the opposite pole from our hunter-gatherer ancestors. In the last couple of centuries, our world has changed dramatically. On the one hand, some of us have cornered all the resources and have built empires. On the other hand, we have pushed a vast majority of people to the margins of society. Human greed has jeopardized the environment and ecology of this planet. Forests are disappearing. Oceans are polluted. Rivers are poisoned. And scores of species have become extinct. And now, when the end seems nigh, do you think we have any hope? Perhaps the hunter-gatherers represent the most successful human adaptation. I believe there is so much that we can learn from these communities. So let us understand the key features of their social life, ethos, and worldview. So most of the hunter-gatherer communities, they are divided into bands. Band is the basic unit of hunter-gatherers' social organization. So 15 to 20 to 50 people associated by kinship, they live together. They live in temporary shelters, and then they move from one place to another in search of food and water. Mobility is not only important for their subsistence and sustainability of resources, it also helps them express their freedom and avoid conflicts. For instance, in case of any conflict or difference of opinion with the leader of the group, the hunter-gatherers will simply move away. Access to resources in hunter-gatherer communities is based on common property regime. So that means movable property may belong to the individual, but land belongs to the community as a whole. And everyone has equal access to that land and the resources on it. It is beneficial for everyone. Let's understand how. There is this Nicobar archipelago in the Eastern Indian Ocean. In 2004, the archipelago was devastated by the Indian Ocean tsunami. The Nicobar is also a traditional habitat of Nicobaris, which is a semi-hunter-gatherer and horticultural society. So one island in particular, named Trinket, was completely devastated. It broke into 3 pieces like a biscuit. And the island became unsuitable for human living. So all of the Nicobaris were evacuated from that island after the tsunami. And they were rehabilitated on an adjacent island, Kamota. So the islanders of Kamota not only gave them land for settlements, but for cultivation and plantations also. So how could this kind of arrangement work? It could work because the Nicobaris don't have private ownership over land. The land belongs to their tuhets, extended families. So that's why this kind of arrangement was possible. Sharing is common among all the hunter-gatherer communities. Hunter-gatherers share resources within their community and outside as well. Hunter-gatherers believe that everyone has right to food and resources. So even those who can't hunt, can't procure food for themselves, community gives them respectable share of food. Because of this nature, because of this sharing, nobody holds any wealth because it keeps on distributing, it keeps on dividing. And because of this sharing, there is a lot of strong support system among the hunter-gatherers. I'll give another example from Nicobar. During tsunami, thousands of people, indigenes, died in Nicobar, and many children became orphaned and homeless. So what happened to those children? The community adopted them. So in the end, no one was left homeless or orphaned. So sharing is most important because no one is left vulnerable, or in any kind of situation, they know that there is some kind of system that will help them. Hunter-gatherer societies are egalitarian. Egalitarianism is their core value. So in their society, there is no inequality, there is no discrimination. Everyone is equal. So no one gets special treatment, no one gets treated badly. Similarly, Leadership among the hunter-gatherer communities is non-hierarchical. It's non-coercive. So a leader doesn't command obedience. A leader will just suggest or acts as a facilitator. It is the community that will demand, that will decide. Look at that picture. The lady there is Islam. She was the Rani of Nankari. During their regime in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the British gave the title of Rani to her. But she never behaved like a Rani. She never behaved like a sovereign ruler or a dictator. She worked for the welfare of people, and all those decisions were taken in consultation with the community. So there is so much that we can learn from these communities, especially our leaders can learn from these communities. This is a perfect example of servant leadership. The indigenous people or hunter-gatherer people, they have a sustainable lifestyle. So they know that they have survived through their hunting and gathering skills. They have survived for hundreds and thousands of years. And they will survive in the future as well. So they don't believe in hoarding. They don't believe in over-exploitation of resources. For them, land, forests, mountains, and rivers, they are sacred. And through their rituals, through their festivals, they connect deeply with nature. I'll give you an example, an interesting example. I was conducting field work in Nicobar, in Little Nicobar. I was staying with a Nicobarese family. So every day, we used to go fishing in a small boat. So my friend, Nicobarese friend Gilbert, he used to catch fish with a baited hook. So after a labor of 2-3 hours, they would manage to catch only 2 or 3 fish. So I suggested him, Gilbert, should I buy you a fishing net? To this, he said no. And he reasoned, if he uses a fishing net, he will catch plenty of fish, more than the requirement of his family. So the fish will go waste, and the ocean of God would be very upset with him. So this is how hunter-gatherers, they relate with nature. So along with these commonalities, hunter-gatherers also show divergence. Look at these 2 questions. Do women in hunter-gatherer societies have better social status? Are hunter-gatherer communities completely peaceful? Well, these questions are debatable. Because hunter-gatherer societies show a lot of divergence, significant divergence on both these points. But we can safely conclude that the status of women in hunter-gatherer communities is far better than any form of society. And these societies are much, much peaceful than any form of society. I remember in Nicobar, I met an elderly. On being asked, he told me that in his lifespan of 75 years, he had never seen his community members physically assaulting one another. Isn't that incredible? So that was the social life, ethos, and worldview of hunter-gatherer communities. Now, coming back to my 2 questions. Do you think our world in its present form has any future? And now, when the end seems nigh, do you think we have any hope? To my first question, I strongly feel our world in its present form has no future. The answer to my second question lies in this quote of Daniel Quinn. He said, indigenous people believe that man belongs to the world. Civilized people believe that the world belongs to man. The day we understand the difference between these two worldviews and start building a world imbibing the ethos of hunter-gatherers and indigenous communities, I think from that day onwards, we will have plenty of hope. This world will be free of hunger, hate, and greed. Discrimination, exploitation, inequality, injustice will not plague our society anymore. We will experience a new world where all human beings will live happily with nature and wildlife. Thank you so much.